Good morning, USA. This is Bill MacDonald, the writing doctor, and today is going to be about what is the correct singular way to write sentence singular blank. The key words are so critical to help your students know what to do. Now, things may change next year, but for now, ever since STAR has started and even TAX, when the keywords are a specific way in an editing question, regardless of if it's fourth, seventh, ninth, or 10th, the same rules have applied. So let's get straight to the emergency room of editing revising so we can see how to differentiate between change and the word correct. Question number 9 on this past year's fourth grade test said, what is the correct way to write sentence 3? It didn't say passage, didn't say paragraph. And so in this case, in order to get this question correct, all you have to do is understand the subject verb agreement of sentence 3. Now, with the words correct and sentence in the keywords, let's look at rule number 2. What is the correct way to write sentence blank? Since we underline correct, we would label R.O.F that it's either a run-on or it's a fragment. So when you look at the bottom of my mini poster on the folder, the word sentence and sentences is here. Check for complete subjects and verbs, predicates, run-on sentence, not enough punctuation. They kind of go on and on with a highway instead of a street that has correct punctuation, or a fragment. When you read it, it's either going to be missing the subject or the predicate of the sentence. And so you must change your cups poster with one S to the two S's, because question 2 and number 3 are often case the lowest scores when it comes to the questioning strategy. So we have to practice that. They have little gold cups at Dollar Tree that you can give out for kids who apply all the skills of cups correctly. So we're going to look at question number 9 and 13 that are both worded using rule number 2. So if your kids use my strategies, then have them really quickly just write rule number 2 is here, that it's either a run-on or a fragment. Now, I don't have to look at the sentences because we see no change is not there. But unless we know what the content is, unless we know what they were meaning by their sentence, we won't know if we have to eliminate. And you can see from letter B, content is missing. So if you look, this is multiple choice, which is going to be at most 75% of the time starting next year. So multiple choice, this one was odd, and odd is going to be A, B, C, or D on paper tests from now on. It might also be F, G, H, J on computer tests, but we'll practice again. We're going to do strategy number 6, where we cite evidence by selecting or highlighting text in a sentence, the paragraph, or the passage. In this one, we just need to look at the sentence to find out the subject verb agreement of sentence number 3. And a reminder on your graphic organizer, since change refers to regular cups, capitalization, usage, punctuation, and spelling, what is the correct way, correct or best way to write sentence blank and blank, I like to use the acronym TCBY. Whenever it says correct or best, then they have TCBY. If they say sentence, that's singular, that means that the mistake is either a run-on or a fragment. If they say sentences, plural, that means that the sentence, and we won't get into this one today because we don't have a mistake like this one. It doesn't say sentences, that the first sentence is complete with a subject and a predicate, and the other one is a fragment missing the subject or the predicate. Or it could be flipped, where the first sentence is a fragment missing the subject or predicate, and the second one is a complete thought. So the reason the little boy is running forever, he never bothers to stop for a period. That's an RO, a run-on. The F is what I call reader's whiplash. We're suddenly enjoying his sentence, and before he's able to share his subject and predicate with you, he puts a stop sign, a wall, a punctuation. So we'll find out one of the two answers is going to be a run-on, and the other one is going to be a fragment, and it does follow rule 2. Once again, if you want to add the extra P instead of cups, capitalization, usage, punctuation, spelling, and sentences, you could also talk about the importance of penmanship, because while we're writing on pen and paper, pencil and paper, when we transfer to a computer document, the print, the way that we type out our words, have to have one space after the word and two spaces after the punctuation. And we want to make sure we don't put any spaces between the letters of one word. That's why we have Iron Man just have the letters close but not touching each other, and cursive, the letters can touch each other. But as I mentioned in the last video, let's practice the concept of Iron Man so we can prepare for computerized online test. So question number 9 says, let's go look at sentence number 3. So as you notice on page 22 for these two questions, I'm only looking at sentence 21. And for question number 9, and I suggest that you have your kids label question number 9, opening bracket. You can highlight it, close the bracket at the end. And again, I don't underline so that we don't accidentally cover up periods and punctuation. And a reminder for punctuation, whenever there's a run-on or fragment problem, pay close attention to when they slow the sentence down with a yellow punctuation mark and when they stop it with a red. So as we read, we can do things visually, verbally, auditory, kinesthetically, or all of them. So we'll begin kinesthetically and verbally to get your kids confident in saying, seeing, and hearing. Capital. Some people, subject, research, verb, inside a twisting model of the human brain, comma. My brain was wanting to pause there, but they decided to slow the sentence down instead of stop it. Others, completely different from these people, subject, walk past rows of wooden towers that stand like soldiers in a field, simile. Make sure your kids recognize figurative language when they see it. Period, stop sign. So this sentence, because the second portion is completely unrelated to the first portion, they should have put a stop sign and a capital here. That's as simple as what they had to do. But when you look at the letter choices, they're all pretty low. So let's see which answer did the correct thing. So since we read the sentence, We know that the problem is a run-on. And so we've got to fix the question without changing the content, without having a fragment, without having a wrong cause and effect relationship with two periods. Letter A, capital. Some people search inside a twisting model of the human brain, period. Capital. Because others walk past rows of wooden towers that stand like soldiers in a field. What they're doing with the word because is they're saying that this group of people are only doing this because the other group is doing that, that A is related to B, that's the only reason it's true. So what you can do, since C comes before E in the alphabet, when you transition, when you teeter-totter, when you seesaw between these two sentences, move the cause sentence to the front because causes come before effect. See if it makes sense. Because others walk past rows of wooden towers that stand like soldiers in a field, comma, some people search inside a twisting model of the human brain. There's no reason or connection of why they would do that. So even though it sounds okay to some people, anything that starts with because is a why statement. Because da 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 da, you would want a comma there, and you have to put that at the beginning of the sentence in most cases. So we're going to eliminate letter A. Capital. Some people searching, capital. Since they changed the content from search to searching, we can eliminate it because of the content of the word change. You want to keep the word intact that we had. Inside a twisted model of the human brain, period, others walk past the rows of wooden towers. So besides one word, if your kids did not pay attention to that word because they weren't either seeing it or saying it, they would have picked that answer, and 20% did. But because the content changes, we're going to eliminate B. Capital. See, some people, capital, some people search inside a twisting model of the human brain, comma, and others. So while at the same time these groups are doing this, we can use a coordinating conjunction joined by a comma with an independent clause. Others walk past, okay? They walk past what? They forgot part of information. We're right in the middle of telling us what the others walked past. They were walking past capital rows of wooden towers that stand like soldiers in a field. Since that part is a fragment, we can't change a run-on to a fragment and say that we have a correct version of a sentence. So when you look at the last one, all your students had to do was put a period where the comma was and capitalize the next word, because these two sentences were what two different groups of people were doing in relationship to this experience that they were having. Capital. Some people search inside a twisting model of the human brain, period. Dropping a ball on the floor. Capital. Others, plural, walk, present tense, happening right now. Past rows of wooden towers that stand like soldiers in the field, simile. Period. So because this was the one that was able to turn a run-on into two complete thoughts, we're going to select this one. Less than half the kids in Texas got it correct. So we must practice this. And so in my binder, I have one section that's nothing but correct and best, where you can practice run-ons and fragments, and you can practice sentences and fragments, or fragments and sentences. because if that's the skill that we're needing to work on, sometimes we need to work on just one passage that only has that skill. So if you email me, if you message me, there's a section towards the back third of the binder where I have a spelling only passage, a capitalization passage, a punctuation, a usage, a run-on and fragment passage. That's the one I want you to go with, and you'll be able to practice this skill multiple times because some kids are not GT, gifted talkers, or gifted testers. They're ET, and the only way they're going to get good at this kind of a skill is not become aliens, but take extra time or do something extra times until they build their confidence. So we've read, we've underlined, we've labeled, we've eliminated 3 answers. We've selected one in the book, and so when we're ready to go to the Scantron or the computer, we're going to make sure that our 9D in the book matches our 9D in the Scantron. The other one, same questioning format. What is the correct, not change, way to write sentence 21? This time, we're going to find out that it's a fragment, because every time it says correct and best, the thing is, half the students chose no change, but what they did not realize, they liked letter D, even though it was a fragment, either missing the subject or the predicate. So again, when you look at your little graphical organizer, it's the one about the little red wall. And so I had, think Robin, one of you guys in my group, went through the trouble of drawing all these on a little anchor chart for her kids to remember which picture stands for which, and when are we doing change with cups or correct with run-ons, fragments, sentences and fragments, or fragments and sentences. Okay, so we're only going to go look at sentence 21 and see what the issue is. There it is. Capital, wanting to bring, that's a verb. Somebody was wanting to bring other capital Russian artists. The reason I don't capitalize artists, they didn't say the names of the artists. So the teachable moment of instruction would be, what are some examples of some artists that create works of art? Well, since we're just using the name artist, we don't need a proper noun. We just leave it lowercase. To the area to create works of art. Now, this time, if we don't look at the sentence before, we've got to figure out who we're talking about. Who was wanting? Well, I made my little stick man in 2006, comma, when. To start with how, why, where, or when, you often put a comma then. To start with how, why, where, oh, when, you often put a comma then. So even though this is only 2 words, an introductory phrase just saying when, you have the option to put a comma if you want to. There's nothing wrong with that. You don't have to put that comma there because it's a short introductory phrase. Polisky started the Capital Arch Stoyani Capital Festival, period. So I've got to figure out, because we don't want to use his name twice because that would be repetition, we've got to figure out by working backwards, is this Polisky person a man or a woman, a male or a female? I only had to go back 2 sentences. 18, it says, over the years, he, Polisky, continued to make many more sculptures. So I know it's a guy. And so instead of repeating his name 2 sentences in a row, tell your students, once you know who the noun is, which pronoun would be appropriate. We would use he at the beginning of a sentence and him in the back of the verb. So that's what we're going to be looking for. He. On, sorry, number 21. All right. So we found out that it's a fragment because it was telling us something that somebody was doing, but didn't tell us who they were. A says, capital he, the slow, what was it? Poliski dude, wanted, verb, past tense, to bring other Russian artists to the area to create works of art, period. That one was, uh, was great. And I want to double check because that's a pretty low number to get correct. I'd hate if that would be true. Number, might have, I want to just make sure I didn't write this wrong. Number 13, 50, it was, 13 was 61. I was getting it from another question. 13 was 61. 14. 15. And 9. Didn't want to mislead you guys here. So they did a little better here. So apparently the kids are knowing when they have a fragment that you have to have a subject and a predicate. And think of it like this. The subject is like your brain. The who, what, when, the person, the place, the thing, or the idea. It's sort of like the scarecrow in Wizard of Oz. He was missing his brain. He was missing his subject. The Tin Man was missing his heart, his verb, his predicate. And so we had to do an operation to turn those two fragments into sentences. And we had to take them to the wizard with Dorothy's help. All right. So the answer that's correct was this one. But for some reason, there were quite a few distractors, letters B and D, 14 and 16. Let's see what was so appealing. Capital. He wanted to bring other capital Russian artists to the area, period. Capital, to create works of art, period. If you have a sentence that only tells you why somebody did something, that's a fragment. So we're going to eliminate it right away. But if you allow your kids to read this silently with no verbalization of the period or capital, what's going to happen is it's going to sound great in their head. Listen, he wanted to bring other Russian artists to the area to create works of art. You can't be like a person in a car ignoring stop signs. So it's important your kids either bounce the imaginary ball on the floor, or you say period to stop and say capital, or pretend to put on your caps, or else you won't notice that fragment at the end. Capital, he wanted to bring, the he is there, other capital Russian artists to the area. My brain made me pause. They could create works of art. So I'll draw a wall where I think they should have had a period. They suddenly stop and give another pronoun. They could recreate works of art. Who is they? The Russian artist, but you're not allowed to have a fragment turn into a run-on. So we would eliminate that letter choice. And if you say that no change needs to be made in sentence 21, you're saying that it's okay to have a sentence as a fragment without a subject. So if you tell me why, if you explain Well, you're going to eliminate the subject. He is missing. So the letter we're going to choose is A. Select, fill it in, put an A on the side, put another A up here. We're still working with odd. 13A in the book matches 13A in the Scantron or in your computer. We eliminated B because it was a fragment, C because it was a run-on, and D because the original sentence was missing its subject. So it's also known as a fragment. So that's how you can tell the difference between how to work with questions that say what change with cups and what is the correct way. Sentence singular would be a run-on, or a fragment. Sentences plural would be a saf, a sentence followed by a fragment, or a fas, a fragment followed by a sentence. So when we get to 7th and 9th and 10th grade, I'm sure we're going to see a couple of those so you can practice as well. So this rule applies to all grade levels. So the folders are very helpful. The graphic organizers are very helpful because all your kids have to do is draw their hand and write cups with 2 S's. If you want to put on your palm penmanship, cursive and print and computer, that's important. The triangle way to write: cursive, print, computer, the different ways that we're going to be writing or typing. So please share or tag your 3rd through 8th grade, 3rd through 10th grade. Remember that all of you from 3rd through 8th grade are going to get these questions as field tested only, but it's important that we practice the skills beforehand. And many programs, many curriculums don't teach the difference between these 2 types of sentences. This last one, they want you to have cups with 1 S, and half the posters in America are wrong because they're missing the problem of sentence boundary issues, knowing when to stop a sentence and when to keep it going. So please add at least 1 S to your cups poster, and perhaps add another P if you think the print, the penmanship, or the cursive is important. So good luck today. Have a blessed day. Share or tag your editing teacher friends because this will be field tested items from 3rd through 8th. It will be real items in 9th and 10th grade.